The giant alien ship appeared over Earth without warning. It was bigger than any city, darker than space itself, and covered with weapons that glowed an angry red. Inside the Galactic Council meeting room, Ambassador Kyle Harris stood perfectly still as the hologram of the alien commander filled the air in front of him. The alien was called War Prime Thraxis. He looked like a massive insect, standing nearly 10 feet tall with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His species, the Zrixians, had conquered 47 different planets. They had never lost a single war. Now they wanted Earth. "You have 3 of your days to surrender," Thraxis announced, his voice translated into English by the machines. "Give us your planet peacefully or we will take it by force. Your species will become servants to the Zrixian Empire." The other aliens in the council chamber watched Kyle carefully. Some looked sympathetic. Others seemed curious about what the human would do. A few looked almost amused, as if they were watching a small child try to argue with an adult. Kyle took a deep breath. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He knew fear, but he also knew something else about humans that these aliens did not. "We refuse your offer," Kyle said simply. "Leave our space. This is your only warning." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Several alien delegates made sounds that might have been gasps or laughs. Thraxis stared at Kyle for a long moment, then his mandibles began clicking rapidly. He was laughing. "Adorable," Thraxis said. "Your species has been in space for less than 100 years. We have been conquering worlds for 10,000. You have no chance. I will enjoy watching your cities burn." The hologram vanished. Kyle stood alone in the sudden silence. An alien delegate from a peaceful species called the Ventari approached him carefully. "Ambassador Harris," the Ventari said softly, "please reconsider. The Zrixians always win. Always. Your world will be destroyed if you resist." Kyle smiled sadly. "Then we'll be destroyed. But we won't surrender. That's just not how humans work." Far above Earth, on the bridge of the defense ship Horizon, Commander Lisa Bennett watched the Zrixian fleet gathering at the edge of the solar system. There were hundreds of warships, each one bristling with weapons. Her crew was silent, staring at the display screens with pale faces. Lisa was a short woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had been in the Space Navy for 20 years. She had studied every battle in human history, from ancient times to the present. She knew what her crew was thinking. They were thinking this was impossible to win. "Lieutenant Jake Morrison, report," Lisa said calmly. Jake was her second in command, a young man with red hair and freckles. He looked nervous but tried to hide it. "All ships are in position, Commander. We have 37 combat vessels ready. The Zrixians have 463. "Well," Lisa said with a small smile, "at least we're not outnumbered too badly." A few crew members laughed nervously at that. Jake looked at his commander with something like wonder. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "do you really think we can win this?" Lisa turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard but not unkind. "I think we're human, Lieutenant. And humans have a bad habit of surviving things we're not supposed to survive." Down on Earth in the capital city, President Daniel Foster sat in a meeting with his top military leaders. General Patricia Holmes, the head of all Earth's armed forces, stood at the front of the room presenting the situation. "The numbers are clear, sir," Patricia said. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "They have better weapons, better shields, more ships, and more experience. By every measure, we should surrender immediately." President Foster was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and worry lines on his forehead. He had been elected because people trusted him to keep them safe. Now he was facing an impossible choice. "What are our chances if we fight?" he asked. Patricia paused. "Honestly, sir? Less than 5%. Maybe less than 1%. The room was silent. Everyone waited for the president to speak. "And if we surrender?" Foster asked. "We become slaves," Patricia said bluntly. "The Zrixians don't believe in peaceful occupation. They take what they want and make the conquered species serve them. Our children would grow up as property of an alien empire." President Foster stood up and walked to the window. He could see people walking on the streets below. Normal people living normal lives. Parents taking children to school. Workers heading to their jobs. All of them unaware that their world was about to change forever. "I have a question for all of you," Foster said, turning back to the room. "In all of human history, have we ever been good at accepting slavery? Have we ever been good at just giving up?" Patricia smiled slightly. No, sir. We have not. Then we fight, Foster said firmly. Send a message to their fleet. Tell them to leave our space. Make it clear that this is their only chance. The message was sent. Across space, on the command bridge of the Zrixian flagship, War Prime Thraxis received it. He read it once, then again, then began clicking his mandibles in that laughing sound. They refuse, he announced to his officers. These soft little mammals think they can fight the Zrixian Empire. His officers clicked their mandibles too, sharing in the amusement. One of them, a younger warrior, looked at the data about humans on his screen. War Prime, the young officer said hesitantly. There is something strange about this species. According to the Galactic database, they evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days until the prey died of exhaustion. Thraxis waved a claw dismissively. Irrelevant. Hunting animals is not the same as space combat. Begin the attack. I want this over quickly. Back on the horizon, alarms began blaring. The Zrixian fleet was moving toward Earth. All hands to battle stations, Lisa announced calmly. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. And remember that humans are really, really bad at knowing when to quit. Jake checked his weapon systems one last time. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was steady when he spoke. All ships reporting ready, Commander. Good, Lisa said. She looked at the massive enemy fleet on her screen and felt her heart pounding. But she also felt something else. Something that every human felt when their back was against the wall. Not fear, not despair, anger. All ships, Lisa commanded. Begin protocol persistence. Show these aliens why you should never threaten a species that evolved from hunters. Show them what happens when humans say no. The Earth fleet moved forward to meet the attack. They were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Their weapons were weaker. Their shields were less advanced. By every logical calculation, they were going to lose. But humans had never been very good at logic when it came to survival. They were good at something else. They were good at refusing to die. The first missiles from the Zrixian fleet lit up space like 1,000 suns. They streaked toward the Earth defense ships with enough power to destroy entire cities. On the bridge of the horizon, Commander Lisa Bennett watched them come and smiled. Now, she said quietly, the human ships scattered in every direction. They dove behind the moon, ducked into asteroid fields, and used the debris of old satellites as cover. The Zrixian missiles hit empty space where the ships had been just seconds before. On the Zrixian flagship, War Prime Thraxis watched in confusion. What are they doing? Why don't they stand and fight? His tactical officer studied the screen. They are using evasive patterns, War Prime. Very effective ones. They seem to know exactly when and where we will fire. Cowards, Thraxis spat. They run like frightened prey animals. But Captain Ryan Cooper, commanding the defense frigate Relentless, had a different view of the situation. He was a stocky man with a scarred face and cold gray eyes. He had fought in 3 different Earth wars before joining the Space Force. That's right, Ryan said to his crew as they dodged another volley of enemy fire. Let them think we're running. Let them waste their ammunition. We're not here to fight with honor. We're here to win. His ship popped out from behind a chunk of destroyed space station, fired 6 missiles at a Zrixian destroyer, then vanished back into cover before the enemy could return fire. 2 of his missiles hit, causing minor damage to the alien ship's shields. Direct hit, his weapons officer reported. Their shields are down to 98%. Ryan grinned. Good, we just need to hit them about 50 more times. Keep firing. This pattern repeated across the entire battle space. Human ships would appear, attack, and disappear. They never stayed still long enough for the Zrixians to get a good shot. They never fought fair. They were like mosquitoes attacking an elephant, each bite too small to matter but never stopping, never giving the enemy a moment of peace. Hours turned into days. The Zrixian fleet had expected a quick battle. They had expected the humans to either surrender or die within the first few hours. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding, exhausting fight that never seemed to end. On Earth, life continued in a way that baffled the aliens monitoring the planet. Air raid sirens should have been wailing. People should have been panicking. Instead, children went to school. Adults went to work. There were long lines at military recruitment centers as people volunteered to help defend their world. In a basement laboratory in the capital city, engineer Sophie Martinez worked without sleeping. She was a young woman with messy black hair and coffee stains on her lab coat. Around her, dozens of other scientists and engineers worked on different projects. "We need to figure out how their shields work," Sophie said to her team. "If we can find a weakness, we can hurt them." Her assistant, a nervous young man named Peter, brought her a piece of debris from a destroyed Zrixian probe. "We recovered this from the moon. It's part of their shield generator." Sophie took the alien technology carefully. Her hands were steady despite not sleeping for 36 hours. She studied it, took it apart, put it back together, and finally smiled. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh, that's interesting. Their shields are powerful, but they cycle. There's a tiny moment every few seconds where they refresh. That's when they're vulnerable." "Can we target that moment?" Peter asked. "Not with our current targeting computers," Sophie admitted. "But I have an idea. If we modify the missile guidance systems to recognize the cycle pattern, they can time their impact perfectly. How long will that take?" Sophie looked at her team. They all looked exhausted but determined. 72 hours if we don't sleep." "We're not going to sleep." Meanwhile, in a military training facility, Lieutenant Jake Morrison prepared his Marines for a mission that seemed impossible. There were 200 men and women in the room, all wearing combat armor designed for zero-gravity fighting. "Listen up," Jake said, standing in front of them. "We're going to board enemy ships and fight them hand to hand. Yes, they're bigger than us. Yes, they're stronger. Yes, they have natural armor. I don't care." The Marines listened silently. Jake was younger than most of them, but he had proven himself in combat before. "Humans have been fighting bigger, stronger enemies since we lived in caves." Jake continued. "Bears were bigger than us. We killed them anyway. Saber-toothed tigers were stronger than us. We hunted them to extinction. You know why? Because humans are persistence hunters. We don't win by being strongest. We win by never giving up." He pulled up a hologram showing the inside of a Zrixian ship. Their ships are designed for their biology. High ceilings, wide corridors. Everything built for creatures that are 10 feet tall. That means lots of vertical space. We're going to use that. We move fast, we stay in their blind spots, and we hit them where they're vulnerable. One of the Marines, a woman named Kelly, raised her hand. "Sir, where are they vulnerable?" Jake grinned. "Their joints. Their eyes. Their breathing tubes. We've studied their biology. They're tough, but they're not invincible, and they've never fought humans in close combat before. They don't know how mean we can be when we're protecting our home." The training continued day and night. The Marines learned to fight in zero gravity, to move silently through metal corridors, to work together like a pack of wolves. Back in space, the Zrixian fleet was beginning to show strain. Their ships needed maintenance. Their crews needed rest. Their supplies were running low because they had expected a short battle, not an endless chase. War Prime Thraxus looked at the reports with growing concern. "How many ships have we lost?" 17 destroyed, 43 damaged, his tactical officer reported. "The humans have lost 9 ships. "That's acceptable," Thraxus said, but he didn't sound certain. "We still outnumber them significantly." "Yes, War Prime, but our crews are exhausted. They request permission to rotate off duty and rest." "Denied. We cannot show weakness to these mammals." But the humans didn't need rest the same way. Their ships had larger crews and could rotate people through shifts. Their commanders had planned for a long battle from the beginning, because that was the human way. Plan for the worst and keep fighting. Commander Lisa Bennett looked at the tactical display and allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. The enemy fleet was slowing down. Their response times were getting longer. They were getting tired. "Time to push a little harder," she said. "All ships begin attack pattern Delta. Let's see how they handle coordinated strikes from multiple directions." The Earth fleet, which had been attacking randomly, suddenly began working together. Groups of 3 or 4 ships would target a single enemy vessel from different angles, overwhelming its defenses. Then they would scatter before reinforcements could arrive. One Zrixian destroyer took hits from 4 different directions in the span of 10 seconds. Its shields failed and human missiles punched through its hull. The crew abandoned ship, escaping in pods. "First kill," Jake reported from his station on the horizon. His voice was excited but controlled. "Mark it on the board," Lisa said calmly. "But stay focused. We have 462 more to go." On Earth, President Daniel Foster gave a speech that was broadcast to every human, whether on the planet or in space. He stood in front of cameras, looking tired but determined. "My fellow humans," he began, "I won't lie to you. This battle is hard. We're outnumbered and outgunned. The enemy expected us to surrender by now, but here's what they don't understand about us. Humans don't surrender. We don't quit. When someone pushes us, we push back harder. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Right now, up there in space, our people are fighting for our survival. They're tired. They're scared. But they're not giving up, and neither can we. Every person on Earth needs to do their part. Build ships, make weapons, grow food, take care of each other. Show the galaxy what humanity means. The speech ended, but its effect rippled across the planet. Factory workers volunteered for extra shifts. Scientists doubled their efforts. Children collected scrap metal for recycling into ship parts. The entire species united behind a single goal: survive. War Prime Thraxus watched a recording of the human president's speech. He didn't understand all of it, but he understood enough. These creatures were not going to surrender. They were not going to break. And for the first time in his long military career, Thraxus felt something he had never felt before: doubt. 3 weeks into the war, Sophie Martinez finally emerged from her laboratory. She looked terrible, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair sticking up in every direction. But she was smiling as she handed a small device to General Patricia Holmes. "This is it," Sophie said, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Install this in every missile we have. It will let them punch through Zrixian shields." Patricia examined the device carefully. It was smaller than her hand, covered in circuits that seemed to shimmer with strange light. "You're sure it works?" "I tested it 100 times, Sophie replied. "The Zrixian shields have a cycle pattern. They refresh every 4.3 seconds. During the refresh, there's a gap. It only lasts for 0.002 seconds, but that's enough. This device makes our missiles wait for that gap and then strike." Patricia looked at the exhausted engineer with respect. "How long to install these in all our weapons?" "I built enough for every ship in the fleet. My team is ready to start installations immediately. Give us 12 hours. "You have 8 hours, Patricia said, but she smiled as she said it. "Get it done, Sophie. You might just win us this war." In space, Commander Lisa Bennett received the news about the new weapons. She immediately called a meeting with all ship commanders through secure communication channels. "Listen carefully," Lisa told them. "In 8 hours, we're getting an upgrade that will change everything. Until then, we keep doing what we've been doing. Stay mobile, stay unpredictable, and keep the pressure on them." Captain Ryan Cooper nodded from his screen. His face looked tired, but his eyes were still sharp. "What's the plan after we get these new weapons?" "We stop playing defense," Lisa said. "We go on the attack. I want every ship ready to strike hard and fast. We're going to show the Zrixians what humans can really do." The ship commanders signed off to prepare their crews. Lisa turned to Jake Morrison, who had been listening quietly. "Jake, how are your boarding teams?" "Ready," Jake said firmly. "We've been training for 3 weeks straight. The Marines are eager to get into the fight." "Good. Because once we start breaking through their shields, I want your people on those ships. We're not just going to damage them. We're going to capture them." Jake's eyes widened. "That's ambitious." "That's human," Lisa corrected with a slight smile. On the Zrixian flagship, War Prime Thraxus was in an emergency meeting with his senior officers. The mood was tense. 3 weeks of constant fighting had worn down the mighty Zrixian fleet in ways they had never experienced. "I need a status report," Thraxus demanded. His chief engineer, a scarred veteran named Craxus, spoke first. 30 ships destroyed, 98 damaged. Our supplies are at 40%. Our weapon systems are showing wear from constant use. Many ships report critical maintenance needs. And the humans? They have lost 23 ships, Craxus said. But their attack patterns are not decreasing. If anything, they are becoming more coordinated. Thraxus slammed a claw on his command throne. "This is unacceptable. We are the Zrixian Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds. How can we be struggling against these primitive mammals?" His tactical officer, a younger Zrixian named Vexus, spoke carefully. "War Prime, I have studied their tactics. These humans are fighting like persistence hunters. They do not try to win big battles. They try to exhaust us with many small attacks. It is a strategy we have never encountered before." "Then we adapt," Thraxus growled. "Prepare for a massive assault. I want every ship to attack Earth directly. We will overwhelm their defenses and end this." But before the order could be carried out, alarms began blaring across the Zrixian fleet. Human ships were attacking in coordinated groups, and something was different. Their missiles were getting through the shields. On the horizon, Lisa watched as the new weapons performed exactly as Sophie had promised. Human missiles slipped through the Zrixian shields like they weren't even there, striking armor and hull directly. "All ships full attack," Lisa commanded. "Hit them with everything we have." The Earth fleet had been holding back, conserving ammunition and energy. Now they unleashed everything at once. Hundreds of missiles flew through space, each one programmed to exploit the shield weakness. Zrixian ships that had seemed invulnerable began taking real damage. "Target the destroyer on the left flank," Ryan Cooper ordered his crew. "Fire all tubes." The Relentless fired every missile it had. 12 projectiles streaked through space and punched through the enemy destroyer's shields. The explosions ripped through the alien ship's hull. Secondary explosions followed as the damage reached critical systems. "Enemy destroyer is dead in space," Ryan's tactical officer reported. "Life pods are evacuating." "Leave them," Ryan said coldly. "Find another target." The battle turned into a one-sided slaughter. The Zrixians, so confident just hours before, suddenly found themselves unable to defend against human weapons. Ship after ship took damage or was destroyed completely. "This is impossible," Vexus shouted on the Zrixian flagship. "How did they learn to bypass our shields?" "I don't care how," Thraxus roared. "All ships retreat to defensive formation. Pull back to the outer system." But the human fleet didn't let them retreat peacefully. They chased the Zrixians, firing constantly, giving them no rest and no time to recover. Jake Morrison watched from the horizon as enemy ships tried to flee. "Commander, permission to launch boarding operations?" Lisa checked her displays. Several Zrixian ships were disabled but not destroyed, floating helpless in space. "Permission granted. Take your teams and capture as many as you can." Jake and his 200 Marines launched from their ships in small assault pods. They flew through space like arrows, heading toward the disabled alien vessels. The Marines wore special armor that let them survive in the vacuum of space and move in zero gravity. The first team reached a Zrixian cruiser that had lost its engines. Jake led them through a damaged section of the hull, cutting through metal with plasma torches. They entered the ship in a narrow corridor designed for creatures much larger than humans. The Zrixian crew was waiting, armed with energy weapons and ready to defend their ship. But they had never fought humans in close quarters before. They didn't know what to expect. Jake's team moved like ghosts through the corridors. They were small enough to hide in spaces the Zrixians couldn't fit. They used the vertical space, climbing walls and ceilings to attack from unexpected angles. They worked together like a pack of predators, communicating with hand signals and moving as one unit. A Zrixian warrior rounded a corner and came face to face with Jake. The alien was nearly twice Jake's height, covered in natural armor, with 4 arms holding weapons. By every measure, the Zrixian should have won the fight easily, but Jake didn't fight fair. He threw a flashbang grenade that blinded the alien, then rushed forward and fired his weapon at the joints where the armor was weakest. The Zrixian fell with a screech of pain. "Keep moving," Jake commanded his team. "Head for the bridge." The fighting was brutal and fast. The Zrixians were strong, but the humans were quicker and more creative. They used every trick they knew, every dirty tactic, every advantage they could find. Within an hour, Jake's team had secured the cruiser's bridge. Similar scenes played out across a dozen disabled Zrixian ships. Human Marines boarded them, fought through the alien crews, and captured them one by one. The mighty Zrixian warriors, who had conquered so many worlds, found themselves defeated by smaller, weaker creatures who simply refused to lose. On the flagship, Thraxis watched in horror as his ships either fled or were captured. His communications officer reported that several vessels were sending surrender signals. "No," Thraxis said. "The Zrixian Empire does not surrender." "War Prime," Vexus said carefully. "We have lost over 100 ships. Our fleet is broken. If we continue fighting, we will lose everything." Thraxis looked at the tactical display. The human fleet, smaller and supposedly weaker, had defeated the Zrixian Empire. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was real. "Send a message to the human commanders," Thraxis said quietly. "Request a ceasefire to discuss terms." When the message reached the horizon, Lisa read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. The Zrixians wanted to negotiate. They were giving up. "We won," Jake said from beside her, his armor still scorched from the boarding action. "We actually won." Lisa allowed herself a moment to feel relief. Then she straightened her uniform and prepared to respond to the enemy's message. "We won this battle," she corrected. But the war isn't over until they leave our system and promise never to come back. She looked at Earth on the view screen, that beautiful blue planet that had seemed so helpless just 3 weeks ago. Humanity had defended their home against impossible odds. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do when threatened. They had shown the galaxy that humans never ever surrender. The ceasefire lasted exactly 6 hours. During that time, both sides pulled back to assess their situation. The Zrixian fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system, licking their wounds. The human fleet maintained a defensive position around Earth, ready to fight again if needed. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Kyle Harris stood before an emergency session. Dozens of alien species watched on holographic displays, all of them stunned by what had happened. The Zrixians, who had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated by the newest spacefaring race. A delegate from the ancient Korthan species spoke first. Ambassador Harris, the Council demands an explanation. How did your species develop shield-penetrating technology so quickly? Kyle smiled politely. We didn't develop anything new. We just studied what the Zrixians were using and found a weakness. That's what humans do. We solve problems. Impossible, another delegate said. The Zrixian shield technology has been studied by every major species. No one has found a weakness. Then I guess no one looked hard enough, Kyle replied. Humans are very good at finding weaknesses when our survival depends on it. The Korthan delegate leaned forward. You understand what this means? By defeating the Zrixians, you have changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Many species will see Earth as a threat now. Kyle's smile faded. We didn't want this war. We just wanted to be left alone. But if other species decide to attack us because they're afraid, well, they saw what happened to the Zrixians. We defend ourselves. That's not a threat. It's a promise. The council chamber fell silent. Kyle's words hung in the air like a challenge. Finally, the Korthan delegate nodded slowly. Understood, Ambassador. The council will note that humanity wishes for peace but is capable of defending itself. Back on the Zrixian flagship, War Prime Thraxus met with his officers to discuss their options. The mood was dark. In 3 weeks, the mighty Zrixian fleet had been reduced to less than half its original strength. The warriors who had never known defeat now faced humiliation. We can still win, Thraxus said, but his voice lacked conviction. We have more ships arriving from the home system. In 2 weeks, we will have reinforcements. Vexus, his tactical officer, spoke carefully. War Prime, even with reinforcements, we face a problem. The humans have learned to defeat our shields. They have captured 12 of our ships and are likely studying our technology right now. By the time reinforcements arrive, they will be even more dangerous. Then what do you suggest? Thraxus demanded. That we surrender? That we admit defeat to these mammals? I suggest we negotiate a peace treaty, Vexus said. We withdraw from this system and they agree not to pursue us. We both survive with honor. Thraxus was silent for a long moment. Everything in his nature screamed against surrender. The Zrixian Empire did not negotiate with prey species, but these humans were not prey. They were predators in their own right. Send a message to the human fleet, Thraxus finally said. I will meet with their commander face to face to discuss terms. Commander Lisa Bennett received the message while inspecting one of the captured Zrixian ships. She stood on the bridge of the alien vessel with Jake Morrison and several other officers examining the technology. He wants to meet in person, Jake said, reading the message. That's unusual. He wants to see what we're really like, Lisa guessed. Fine, we'll meet him on neutral ground. Set up a meeting on the moon in one of our research stations. 3 days later, War Prime Thraxus arrived at the human moon base accompanied by 2 guards. He walked through corridors built for creatures much smaller than himself, having to duck to avoid hitting his head on doorways. It was humiliating but necessary. Lisa waited for him in a conference room with Jake and Captain Ryan Cooper. When the massive Zrixian entered, the humans stood to greet him formally. Thraxus studied them carefully. The human commander was a small female, barely reaching the middle of his thorax. The other 2 were young males, both looking at him with hard eyes that showed no fear. These were the creatures who had defeated his fleet. Commander Bennett, Thraxus said through his translator device. We meet at last. War Prime, Lisa replied formally. Please sit if you can. The furniture was too small for Thraxus, so he remained standing. It made the meeting awkward with the massive alien looming over the humans. But if he expected them to be intimidated, he was disappointed. They simply adjusted their chairs so they could look up at him comfortably. Let us discuss terms, Thraxus said. The Xerixian Empire is prepared to withdraw from this system. In exchange, we require that you do not pursue us and that you share your shield-penetrating technology." Lisa laughed. It was not a polite laugh. "You came to our home, threatened our people, and now you want us to give you our technology?" "I don't think so. Then what do you want?" Thraxus demanded. "Simple," Lisa said. "You leave. You never come back. You tell every other species in the galaxy what happened here, and you pay reparations for the damage you caused." Thraxus's mandibles clicked in anger. "Reparations? The Xerixian Empire does not pay tribute to prey species." Ryan Cooper spoke up, his voice cold and hard. "Then we continue the war. We've captured 12 of your ships. We're learning your technology. In another week, we'll be able to hunt down the rest of your fleet. Your choice." Thraxus looked at the three humans. They were so small, so fragile-looking. But their eyes were the eyes of predators who had tasted victory. He realized with shock that they meant every word. They would continue fighting until his fleet was destroyed. "What kind of species are you?" Thraxus asked quietly. "We offered you the chance to surrender. We offered you mercy. You could have lived as servants. Instead, you chose to fight a war you should have lost." Jake leaned forward. "That's the thing you never understood about humans. We don't accept slavery. We don't surrender. It doesn't matter if we should lose. What matters is that we fight anyway. That's who we are." Lisa stood up and walked to a window that showed Earth hanging in space. "You asked what kind of species we are. I'll tell you. We're the kind that survived ice ages, diseases, wars, and disasters. We're the kind that climbed from caves to space in a few thousand years. We're the kind that refuses to accept that anything is impossible." She turned back to face Thraxus. "And we're the kind that remembers our enemies. If you leave now and never come back, we'll let you go. But if you ever threaten Earth again, we won't stop until your empire is dust." "That's not a threat. That's a fact." The meeting continued for several hours. In the end, Thraxus agreed to all of humanity's demands. The Xerixian fleet would withdraw immediately. They would pay reparations in technology and resources. And they would inform the Galactic Council that Earth was under human protection and should not be threatened. As Thraxus prepared to leave, he paused at the door and looked back at Lisa. "I need to know something. Your species should have broken. The mathematics said you would surrender. Why didn't you?" Lisa smiled. "Because humans have been fighting to survive since before we even understood what survival meant. It's in our blood. Our ancestors hunted animals that were bigger, faster, and stronger than them. They did it by being smarter, more persistent, and absolutely refusing to give up. That's the human legacy. That's what you were really fighting against." Thraxus left without another word. As his shuttle departed the moon, he looked back at the small blue planet one last time. Such a beautiful world, such a dangerous species. On Earth, President Daniel Foster gave another speech to the world. This time, his message was different. "My fellow humans," he began, "the war is over. The Xerixians are leaving. We won." He paused as cheering erupted across the planet. When it quieted, he continued. "But we need to understand what this means. The galaxy knows about us now. Some species will respect us. Others will fear us. Some may try to test us. We need to be ready. We proved that humans can defend themselves. Now we need to prove that we can be good neighbors in the galaxy. We need to show that we fight only when we must, that we prefer peace but are ready for war. That's the balance we must find." Sophie Martinez watched the speech from her laboratory. She was already working on new projects, improving human technology based on what they had learned from the Xerixians. Around her, her team worked with renewed energy. "We did it," Peter said to her. "We beat an empire." Sophie nodded, but her expression was serious. "We won one battle. But now everyone knows we're here. The real work is just beginning." In space, the human fleet watched as the Xerixian ships gathered and prepared to leave the solar system. Lisa stood on the bridge of the horizon with her crew, feeling a mixture of relief and concern. "What happens now?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at the stars beyond Earth. "Now we get ready for whatever comes next. Because this won't be the last time someone threatens us, but at least now the galaxy knows that humans don't back down." The Xerixian fleet jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. The war was over. Humanity had won, but the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the war ended, Earth looked very different. New space stations orbited the planet, built with a mixture of human and captured Xerixian technology. Defense platforms surrounded the moon. Shipyards worked day and night to build a fleet that could protect humanity from future threats. Ambassador Kyle Harris walked through the Galactic Council chambers with a confidence that had not been there before. Other species no longer looked at him with amusement or pity. Now they looked at him with respect and in some cases fear. Ambassador Harris, the Corthan delegate, called out, "A moment, please." Kyle stopped and waited as the ancient alien approached. The Corthan were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, thousands of years ahead of humanity in technology and culture. "I wanted to inform you personally," the Corthan said. 3 more species have withdrawn from systems near Earth. They cite fear of human expansion as their reason. Kyle frowned. "We haven't expanded anywhere. We're just defending our own space." "Yes, but they don't know that. They see a species that defeated the Xrixians and they wonder what else you might be capable of. Fear makes people do strange things, Ambassador. What do you suggest?" The Corthan was quiet for a moment. "Open your borders. Invite trade. Show the galaxy that humans can be friends, not just warriors. Right now, everyone only knows one thing about your species, that you're dangerous. Show them that you're more than that." Kyle considered this advice carefully. "I'll bring it to my government." "Thank you." Back on Earth, Commander Lisa Bennett had been promoted to Admiral. She now commanded the entire Earth Defense Force, which had grown to over 200 ships. She stood in the new Orbital Command Center, reviewing reports from across the solar system. Jake Morrison, now a captain, entered her office with a tablet full of information. "Admiral, we have a situation. A ship just entered the system." "It's not Xrixian." Lisa looked up sharply. "Who is it?" "They identify as the Ventari, the peaceful species that warned us about the Xrixians. They're requesting permission to land on Earth." Lisa remembered the Ventari delegate who had tried to convince Kyle to surrender. She made a decision. Grant them permission. But keep weapons ready just in case. The Ventari ship landed at the spaceport in the capital city. A delegation of 3 Ventari walked out looking nervous. They were small, furry creatures with large eyes, nothing like the intimidating Xrixians. President Daniel Foster met them personally. "Welcome to Earth," Foster said warmly. "What brings you here?" The lead Ventari bowed deeply. "President Foster, we come to apologize and to ask for help." Foster was surprised. "Apologize for what?" "For not standing with you when the Xrixians came. We were afraid. We advised you to surrender because we thought you would be destroyed if you fought. We were wrong and we are ashamed." Foster gestured for them to sit. "You don't need to apologize. You tried to save us. That was kind. But now we need your help," the Ventari continued. "The Xrixians have returned to their empire in disgrace. They blame smaller species for their defeat. They have begun attacking Ventari colonies in revenge. We cannot defend ourselves." Foster looked at the small aliens carefully. "And you want Earth to help protect you?" "We have nothing to offer in trade. We are not warriors, but we are good at agriculture and medicine. If Earth will protect us, we will share everything we know." Foster called an emergency meeting with his advisors. General Patricia Holmes was strongly against it. "Sir, we can't become the police force for every species that asks. We have to focus on defending Earth." But Sophie Martinez had a different view. "General, with all respect, the Ventari agricultural technology could help us feed billions. Their medical knowledge could cure diseases we've struggled with for years. And politically, it would show the galaxy that we're not conquerors. It would also make us a target," Patricia argued. "If we protect the Ventari, we're directly opposing the Xrixian Empire again." President Foster made his decision. "We help them. But we do it smart. We don't send our entire fleet. We send enough ships to defend their colonies and make it clear that attacking Ventari space means attacking Earth. The Xrixians already know they don't want another war with us." The decision was announced publicly. Earth would enter into an alliance with the Ventari. Human ships would protect Ventari colonies, and in exchange, the Ventari would share their knowledge. The news spread across the galaxy quickly. Some species saw it as proof that humans were good neighbors. Others saw it as proof that humanity was building an empire. War Prime Thraxus, now demoted and serving on a border patrol ship, heard the news and clicked his mandibles in what might have been approval. "The mammals are smarter than I thought," he said to his remaining crew. "They turn our revenge into an opportunity. We attack the Ventari and they gain allies. Clever." On Earth, life slowly returned to normal but with changes. Children learned about aliens in school. Space travel became more common. Humans began to see themselves not just as people of Earth, but as members of a larger galactic community. Captain Ryan Cooper took command of a new ship called the Guardian. Its mission was to patrol Ventari space and protect their colonies. He stood on the bridge with his crew looking at the alien world below. "Strange, isn't it?" his second officer said. "6 months ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we're protecting another species," Ryan nodded. "That's what humans do. We fight when we have to, but we help when we can." That's the balance the president talked about. In her laboratory, Sophie Martinez continued her work. She had reverse-engineered much of the Zrixian technology and was now combining it with human innovation. Her team had grown to hundreds of scientists from across Earth. "We're developing faster-than-light communication," she explained to a visiting government official. "Right now, if our ships are attacked in Ventari space, it takes hours for us to know. With this technology, we'll know instantly. How long until it's ready? 2 years, maybe 3. But it will change everything. Instant communication across light years means our defense network becomes truly effective." The official looked at the complex machinery filling the room. "You really think there will be more threats?" Sophie looked at him seriously. "I know there will be. The galaxy is a big place and not everyone wants peace. But the difference now is that we're ready. We're not the weak new species anymore. We're humans, and humans survive." Meanwhile, Jake Morrison led training exercises for the new Marines who had joined after the war. Thousands of young people had volunteered to serve, inspired by the stories of the defense of Earth. "Listen up," Jake told the recruits. "You all joined because you heard about the war. You heard we defeated a powerful empire. But you need to understand something important. We didn't win because we were better. We won because we were more stubborn." He paced in front of the rows of young faces. "Every one of you needs to understand what it means to be human in space. We're not the strongest. We're not the smartest. We're not the most advanced. But we have something other species don't have. We have the absolute refusal to accept defeat. That's what saved Earth. That's what will save us in the future. Not better weapons or faster ships. Our willingness to keep fighting when everyone else would quit. That's the human advantage." A year after the war, Ambassador Kyle Harris addressed the Galactic Council with a proposal. Earth wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with any species interested in peace and trade. We are not seeking to build an empire. We are not looking for conquest. But we will protect our friends and defend our interests, the Corthan delegate responded. "And if your interests conflict with another species?" Kyle smiled. "Then we negotiate. We compromise. We find solutions that work for everyone. That's what diplomacy is for. But if someone attacks us or our allies, they will learn what the Zrixians learned. Humans defend ourselves." The proposal was accepted. Within months, Earth had formal relations with 15 different species. Trade began to flow. Human agriculture fed alien colonies. Alien medicine saved human lives. The galaxy slowly learned that humanity was more than just warriors, but the military remained ready. Admiral Lisa Bennett ensured that the fleet continued to train, continued to improve, continued to prepare for threats that might come. "We worked too hard for peace to let our guard down," she told her officers. "Stay sharp. Stay ready. Hope for the best but prepare for the worst." 5 years after the Zrixian War, as it came to be called, a new threat emerged at the edge of known space. A mysterious species called the Kreth began attacking colony worlds of multiple species. They were powerful, aggressive, and showed no interest in negotiation. When news reached Earth, President Foster called another emergency meeting. General Patricia Holmes, now older but still sharp, presented the situation. "The Kreth are different from the Zrixians. They don't conquer. They destroy. 3 colony worlds have been completely wiped out. The Galactic Council is asking for help." "From us?" Foster asked. "We're still one of the newest species in space." "They're asking specifically for human help," Patricia said. "Because we're the species that refuse to lose. We're the species that fights differently than everyone else. The old empires tried conventional warfare against the Kreth and failed. They want to see what humans can do." President Foster looked at his advisors. Then he looked at Admiral